Welcome to Faster Masters Rowing Radio. And this week, you will learn about innovations that are coming to indoor rowing over the coming years.
Feel the grip of the oar handle, smooth yet firm in your hands. Taste the salt of your own sweat and the occasional splash of water. It's all part of the journey. Welcome to another episode of Faster Masters Rowing Radio. Each week, our host, Masters rowing coach Rebecca Caro, dives deep into the world of Masters rowing. Whether you're on the water or in the gym, join us to become a faster master. Let's go rowing.
Well, love it or loathe it, it has to be said that indoor rowing is something that we all do from time to time, some more than others. And of course, racing is an integral part of the indoor rowing scene. So today, I'm delighted to welcome, as my guest on the show, Filip Ljubicic from World Rowing, who is head chair of the Indoor Rowing Commission. Welcome to Row Chat.
Thank you, Rebecca. Great to be with you. Hello, everyone.
Now, you work on the global stage with World Rowing. What is it that the Indoor Rowing Commission does?
So the Indoor Rowing Commission is looking at the strategy of indoor rowing and how we can grow the sport itself. So we look at all aspects around that strategy, which is creating rules, creating events, looking at innovations that we can make, looking at how we can work with some of the great companies that are in the space. So Concept 2 for one, but also the new companies that are coming on stream with machines. And the digital space, so people who are creating training programs and great applications. So we're looking at the whole picture when we're looking at indoor rowing.
Now, of course, indoor rowing is much more accessible as a sport than on water rowing because all you need is a flat floor and a rowing machine. So in the big picture context of World Rowing as the governing body for the whole world, what do you think is the importance of indoor rowing?
So when we look at numbers, we hear all the time there's around 20 to 25 million people who sit on a rowing machine at least once a year. So the numbers who take part or do the sport of indoor rowing is huge. And we, as a governing body, need to ensure that that community keeps on growing and that there is a pathway or a goal for people who do the sport. So we see as an international federation, we have to offer a multitude of things, and primarily one of those is the World Championships. And we started a World Championships in 2018. We're now running our 7th edition in 2025. We have been playing around with digital virtual events to in-person events to hybrid events. So we're looking at ways of how we can bring the world together on the rowing machine.
Well, that's really interesting because, of course, virtual events really took off in lockdown when people couldn't travel. And it was, I mean, we had a ton of fun here. I live in New Zealand, doing virtual Head of the Fish and virtual Head of the Charles, events that we would never normally have got a group of people to travel across the world to do. And it definitely did help us to be a little more creative, I think.
Yeah, and we want to do both. So we want to do both physical and virtual. Sometimes it doesn't work that we can do physical. So we have to offer something to the community. 2025 is virtual and it allows lots of people from everywhere to compete. And I think that's something always to remember is being able to compete is also an opportunity for lots of people who sometimes don't have the capabilities of traveling to places. In-person events are great because you get to meet each other and see each other. But virtual also gives that offer of something else. So you don't know who that person you're racing is. There's some excitement, there's unknowns. It's a different landscape, it's a different environment, and both are fundamentally important for World Rowing.
So last year in Prague, you did the classic indoor rowing championships, 2K, 500 meters in person, divided up by all the usual age and weight categories. What's happening this year?
This year it's different. It's a new format. We are opening it up to the world. We still have our age categories. So we still have all the age categories that we had in Prague. There will be world championship titles for those age categories, but there will be a new world champion not world champion of indoor rowing for the person who has the fastest time overall in the final on Sunday of the 2 weekends of the World Championships. And so this format that we have is very different to what we've done before. It starts off with an open World Open heats where everyone can submit a time. Then we take the top 150 plus top 10 in each age category into a continental time zone race, which allows us to run multiple continents at the same day to race, to qualify potentially for the semi-final on Sunday, which will be the top 50 fastest times from all the continents. In that top 50, you might have some masters. So some masters might break in and then potentially might break into the top 20. But we're trying to change the format of racing and create some tactical elements, because we know racing the 2K is hard. But racing 2 or 3 in a short period over a weekend, yes, it happens in classic on the water, but also on the rowing machine now, when you're virtually racing, it becomes tactical. Do you go all out, or do you just break through to get through to the top 50? It becomes a different mindset and challenge.
I'm enjoying the sound of this. Now, there have been some quite substantial innovations. So this is the first time you've run this 2 weekends and the progression.
Yes, it's the first time we're splitting the championships into 2 weekends. So we have the progression starting now. You can enter until the 20th of January, submit a score. If you've raced in a national championships in the time window, you can also submit that score from that national championship. Yeah, so British Championships, there was a Spanish league as well. So lots of championships that are taking place now. You can enter a time. Then the first weekend, we are running 500 meters and endurance relays. And then the second weekend, we're running the 2000 meters and sprint relays. So the endurance relay is also another new event, which is a longer relay rather than the classic 2K relay. And we've also created a 40 to 44 or 44 to 49 age average relay team. So you can become a relay world champion in the masters category as well.
Very, very nice. And how do you connect up your machine to the world ranking? Because I'm doing this in the comfort of my own living room.
So you need to enter on the link that is below right there. And then there are 3 ways that you can submit the score. One is directly through the portal. The second way is through logbook. So if you have a logbook, you can run Concept 2. And then the third way is through a national championships that have been run during the time period.
So independently verified.
Yeah.
And do you recommend drag factors and things so that there is some equivalence?
No. So you can set your own drag factor to what you like. Everyone likes their different feel. But what we do when we do live racing is all the data is coming through. So there is software behind that looks if there is any manipulation of the data or if something is changing. So we don't tell people what drag factor to set.
No. So that's the first weekend. Roll forwards to you've got your top 50 plus the top 10 in each age group. What happens next?
So when we get to the finals day, where there's a semi-final and the final, if you've got a time in the top 50, you will race all live at once. And then the top 20 from that race will then go through to the grand final. And the top 3 of those will win medals as the top indoor rowers, with first place being the world champion of indoor rowing. However, if you're a masters rower and you've made it into the top 50 or the top 20 and you're the fastest in your age category, you're also a world champion. And then whoever comes second in your age category based on time, and we'll do count back, will become second and then third, winning medals. I think what's important to say is the goal is to get as far as you can in the rounds, because if you've made it to round 4, that's the priority round when we do a countback. And then if you made it into round 3, that's the second priority, then round 3, etc. So the goal should be to get to the furthest you can. And something else that's new for this year is we'll do a global standings. So there will be a global standings of where you are ranked based on your time against everyone in the world. So you can finally see, no matter what age group you're in, where you rank based on everyone who's raced at the World Championships.
That is fantastic. So each year you will get a ranking. It's not just based off the concept to global ranking forever, but you obviously it changes with age and with experience.
Correct, and you can say I'm a 50 to 54 world champion, but I'm also ranked 15th in the world.
Very interesting. I'm liking this. Now, of course, rowing is a die-hard sport, and I'm not going to tell you anything you don't already know. There are going to be people who are saying that we shouldn't be innovating and that what was wrong with the old way and so on. And yet we also know that, having seen the rise of beach sprint rowing to go alongside the coastal rowing, which is probably 30 years old, that actually innovations are happening all over our sport, and we jolly well should just buckle down and get used to it. So talk big picture right across indoor rowing. What do you see are the things that are likely to come up that we should just start paying attention to?
So I think you have to look at sport as an entertainment. So you're competing for someone's leisure time. So you're competing to have someone do your sport when they have so many other options to do. So play PlayStation, watch Netflix, read a book, go out and have dinner. So sport is now competing with other leisure activities. So when you look at that as a theory, you have to then look at how do you make your sport interesting. And so we could stay with just the classic 2K and indoor, and that is our thing. But when you look at other sports, so let's take athletics, you have different distances, you have different options of challenges like the heptathlon, you have all these different types of races that suit different types of athletes. And the 2K suits one type of athlete, but we need to move and allow every athlete to compete in the distance or time that suits their body. And this is why we're innovating and trying new things. When you might have seen in Prague and in Toronto at the last 2 World Championships, we ran what was called the Versa Challenge, which is a 2-day event of 5 races that you do, and you get points for each race. So a bit like the heptathlon. And within that, we have races like the elimination, where it's a 20-minute long race, but the person with the lowest meters every 2 minutes is cut. And I would have to say, tactically, it was one of the best races I've watched on a rowing machine, because there was a rower who was pretending to be dead. So, you know where someone's like, looks like they've blown. And so the numbers are they're slower than everyone else. And everyone's like, oh, that guy's blown. And then suddenly, 30 seconds ago, he shoots up in power, and the time to react is so slow.
Of course, because it takes a while before the meters clock through.
Yeah. And then it's a bit too late to react. So suddenly that guy's overtaken you. And this is what's great. It creates tactics. It creates new uncertainties that you have. It's unpredictable. And I think British Rowing last weekend at the Indoor Championships also did some great innovations with their Super Sunday, and they had an elimination race where, let's call it, Jaws was chasing you. So there was a pace boat that was getting faster and faster every 5 seconds, and the goal was to stay in front of it for 6 minutes. And I think those challenges for athletes are great. The athletes love it because it's different, it's new, it changes the way you have to train. So it's really exciting to see where we can take the sport in this environment.
I think that is absolutely fascinating. So we're really seeing the development of indoor rowing as a standalone sport within the bigger picture umbrella of rowing.
Yeah. And I think when we look at 2025 and onwards, as an international federation, we're going to launch a virtual series. So we'll have more racing that comes up in 2025. So monthly challenges that you can race and get a leaderboard, again, within age categories to allow everyone to take part. But when we look longer, we see lots of different opportunities. And one of those is within the new Olympic Games that was announced in Paris, which is in esports. So there is a sport type within that games, which is the combination of virtual environments and physical activity, which rowing on the rowing machine fits really nicely into. So fish game one day might be an Olympic sport.
Fish game has never particularly grabbed me, but I have to say that elimination thing that sounds like a mix of a sort of beep test followed by a bumping race actually has a certain appeal to do en masse. I like it.
Yeah, and it's great. It gives us opportunities to create new things, test new environments, test new challenges. So we're now waiting to hear what the next steps are with the esports games. We feel we have a great offering as a sport, but I think when we look to the future, there's esports, but there's also all the other great events that people do in indoor rowing, from the national federations to individuals who are organizing virtual racing and racing in person. So we definitely do see the ecosystem growing and becoming stronger and stronger.
So you can confirm that World Rowing has put its hat in the ring to being an esport at the Olympic Games.
Yes, we are definitely putting our hat in the ring, and we feel we have an offering which is kind of core to the Olympic values, which is very exciting for us in the future. Do
they know when the first eSport Olympics will be run?
We think it will be in 2025. From the announcements, Saudi Arabia is the host country, so we're waiting to hear the exact date in 2025. So we're excited to see what and who will be in Saudi in 2025.
Wow, that is amazing. And thank you so much for sharing this exciting news. And hats off to you and your team and the World Rowing, obviously, Federation behind your innovations. This sounds like indoor rowing is going to become something very, very different over the next few years.
No, it's an exciting time, and we're very happy to share what we're doing and talk to everyone in the community. So thank you for having me.
Well, Filip, it's been absolutely brilliant. So to Filip Ljubicic, thank you for being with us. Thank you to World Rowing for enabling us to set up this interview. And to everybody out there, dust down that rowing machine. It sounds like we could be having a lot more fun in future. Till next time. Bye-bye.
We are part of the Rowing Chat Podcast Network. Please tell your fellow rowers about the show. If you've learned just one helpful thing from today's episode, please consider supporting the show for as little as $1 per month by visiting fastermastersrowing.com/podcast.